Okay, so travel art today. This whole month. I want to introduce you to the idea of creating your own travel journals whenever you are um, traveling, obviously. But there is a process in which you can start becoming comfortable documenting your trips as illustrated journals. Usually, the idea of sitting at an exotic location with a sketchbook and painting some beautiful scenery is just a romantic idea. When you land up over there, you don't know the first thing to do. You don't know where to begin, what to sketch, how to do it, how much time you have, and all these decisions just completely paralyze. And you will wait for 15 minutes, maybe just doodle something, and then put the journal back. And then it will be several such stop and start events. Eventually, either you will plunge into it or you will just abandon the whole idea. So, I want to introduce you to the various aspects of travel illustration through this month, hoping that at the end of the month, you at least know where to begin, how to start your own travel journal, what is the purpose behind this, and how you can use the tips and tricks in order to start creating like this documented journey. So, firstly, the purpose of travel journals. We are, as a culture, I have found very hesitant to document too much, especially about ourselves. We don't write essays about thoughts that come to us. We don't write anything personal. And I think that is just because of training through generations. Culturally, we are not a people who like to focus on us as individuals. We are more about the community, more about contribution. So if you have time, you will still do something for someone else. Like you'll make a card or you make a gift or something for someone else. But we don't spend so much time on ourselves. So we need to shift our mind a little bit. That shift requires you to start pondering upon your own thoughts and giving them a little more importance than you think they are. So, say you are, think about the last trip you took. What are the key memories you are bringing back? Like Archana was speaking about when she was over here, there would be 4 or 5 points that you would say were very memorable. Over time, what will happen is you will remember those points, but you might not remember the details about how you felt. What was it that made an impact for you? Now, why should we write all of this down as a journal, you might ask? I think um, it's important to start looking at ourselves in a lot more detail than we land up looking. What are our motivations? At the very least, who are you and what are you here for gives you some propulsion for aiming something just in your life. And these little exercise, I'm not saying this is like a big philosophical revelation that you're going to have at the end of the month, but there's a journey in which you will start seeing more of yourself through these contemplations. Part of this is what you will find in your travel journals. How do you respond to the things that you experience is part of knowing yourself. Like, for example, I have been brought up in a home where they said if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything at all. And that's always made me afraid of being critical about something that actually needs to stop existing. Like restaurants which have bad foods, I will never give a bad review. And that is terrible because there are hundreds of other people who are going to go to the restaurant and eat that terrible food. So I had to think about myself and say, okay, what is the point if I'm going to do this? Does it really help anybody? Am I being mean to someone? And I realized that I'm the type of person who can't even say no to something and I will suffer through somebody's bad behavior. So this is a long train, and over several years, I realized that about myself. I still don't give bad reviews, but at least I won't give it in print, but at least I will not stop myself from acknowledging that yes, the food was terrible. So, with that in mind, we cover point one about acknowledging your thoughts and putting your thoughts into words. Writing doesn't come very easily to most of us. So, your writing is going to start off with just a few basics. But that writing also can develop. We are not going to do a writing class, but the tips that I can give you are that when you are writing, simple things like make sure your sentences are thoughtful, and also try not repeating words. If you have said one word in one statement and you're going to say pretty much the same thing about that object or that event, try and change the word and make it a little different. And for that, if you have to go through a thesaurus or something, do it, but make sure that it's not a thesaurus written essay. Now let's come to the pictures, because that's where I can handle you better. So when addressing pictures that you make in your travel journal, we when we look at buildings, say, or we look at street scenes, we look at the whole picture, and then we look at a blank page, and we are thinking, how am I going to translate all of that onto my page? But when you're illustrating, the first thing to do is start off with one thing and then expand that thing to whatever you can do in the time that you have with the skill sets that you have developed. So I have chosen two pictures that we're going to make. One is almost a monochromatic picture of a building, like built in almost like sand, and the other one is a detail of a window with some tiles around it. So the first picture will help you look at buildings as if they are just blocks. We are going to draw those blocks, and then I'm going to show you how to paint it in true watercolor style. You're not going to paint it like you paint with color pencils or something. We are going to do washes and then detailing. That is how watercolor should be used. The second one does require some detail, and this is a good strategy to employ, where you can learn your drawing skills better, or you can sharpen them better by drawing things which are more controlled. If we were to draw a whole building with all these tiles, you will get lost in the perspective, in the shapes of the building, and then be able to translate that whole wall of tiles into something that will look good on a small scale. So, you want to approach this problem from two sides. One, we are making the buildings just as blocks, and the other, we are making the details in a small quantity. And if you want to make a whole building with tiles, you just come from both sides, start making more and more complicated parts of the building so you're comfortable with that, and start reducing the size of the tiles and increasing the scale of that tile, so that when these two come together, it becomes a very natural thing for you to paint. And this is something that you can do throughout. If you are going to make pictures of, say, Jodhpur or Jaisalmer, where you have very, very carved windows and the buildings are very intricate, trying to make all of that in the first shot will be very scary. So you make first the buildings pretty much like this building, then you make a detail of the sandstone carving, and then you start making bigger and bigger details at a smaller and smaller scale, and start applying that onto the building. All right, now let's look at the pictures and see what we're going to do. Okay, 1 second. Hello, can you see it? You can see the picture.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm able to see something else altogether.
We can see some background also.
See, I'm very
Sorry.
I went to
Tell him
7:30
to please
class.
come. I forgot. Sorry. My mistake. Sorry.
No, I was saying we can see another window from your background. You'll be thinking yes.
Yeah.
Fine.
No, I wanted to show you this. Yeah. Okay. Right. So this building is a very nice, simple study in perspective. Uh, Now, perspective is is the, I guess, a phenomenon by which our eyes perceive three dimensions. And I'm sure you remember this from the old science class. The reason we have two eyes is that we can triangulate onto the object and be able to sense depth. But when we are making pictures on a flat surface, we are creating the illusion of three dimension. All we can do is draw lines on the page, vertical, horizontal, or at a particular angle, and through that convey the sense of three dimensions. So, this building has very few details, just maybe one or two colors, but a lot of depth with shadows, shadows within the shadows, and a little bit of shading, little bit of foliage. So all of this can be created really well. I'm going to remove part of this foliage so we can focus on the building itself. The second one is again this, the same colors, but this time a lot more detail. So we have to draw this detail and also make it look three-dimensional. Then we have division of space into a very complex pattern within which we have to draw these tiny tiles. So there are a lot of complicated things over here if you want to do it right. Now for the building, first thing to do is to figure out the proportions. And the best way to do that is to create some kind of basic shape like a square or a circle or an equilateral triangle. Not a rectangle, because rectangles have, you need to have two different measurements for rectangles. So I am taking my square from the edge of the building over here on the left to the edge of the building over here on the right. And I am just creating a simple grid.
So
One
when we're
square.
actually traveling and looking at a building, how do we do this with, I mean,
You can do this
we don't have the
literally.
tools.
No, no, you can. You can literally do this using your fingers.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
when you look at the building, oh look, that's where that whole holding the pencil out
Pencil,
artist
yeah.
comes in. So you hold the pencil and you just close one eye so that you can flatten that depth, and you just calculate and see what part is horizontal, what part is vertical, and how much you want to make that. But in this way, at least you are able to identify the places where you want to measure these dimensions. So once this is made, it becomes a lot easier for us to break up all the other spaces as well. Either we can just continue to make a grid like this. This is easy enough, very objective. You don't really need anything more. I'll just share this. Oh. So you can have this handy as well. Or you can, after you have made the first grid, you can then create what I call a more internal geometry of this object. Like, for example, right from the center line, which is very useful for us, we can divide this line into three parts, divide the line on top into four parts, more or less four parts, is not exact, not absolutely accurate. But this gives us an idea of how far we want to carry a particular line, in what direction. The second measure comes somewhere in between, but not straight, a little to the left. And the third one comes almost straight like this. So, in order to get these cues, we can use any kind of measurement we want, like over here as well. Now I can draw a line here and here. But what is the measure? I'm looking at this in a photograph. That's very easy, but on a blank paper, how do I predict this? So predicting can happen if you can measure objectively, that is 1/3, half, 1/4, and then based on that, you can divide the space even further so that I can make a line at half of this 1/3, that's the blue line, and somewhere in between this blue line and this pink line, I have to draw one edge of the wall on top. Can you see this? So this is what I do because this relies only on its internal geometry. The other one is a very objective method of going about it. Here I have a blue line on the vertical that is going to cut the bottom half of the right square into 3 parts, and here I will just make one mark at 1/4 of the distance from the center so that I can get an angle for this particular wall. The rest over here is just foliage, and how far does that go? It goes just above half. This bottom half is all green. Okay, so that's one thing, but also we can see that there is a wall at the bottom which is maybe just a little less than the, or maybe 1/4 or 1/3 of the way here. This distance is this distance, and here it is maybe lower by how much? You might say a little more than 1/3, so that I can bring this line lower. All these lines are absolutely vital. Seeing the foreground as lines which are converging towards the center below, and lines on top which are converging towards the center on top. And somewhere in between all of this, we have a horizon line, which we can't see right now, but it exists as a horizontal line above which all the lines, if you're looking at a building from the corner, all those lines are going to converge in a radial manner like this. Oh, sorry. So as they come towards the horizon line, they start becoming flatter. And similarly, the same kind of lines from the left. And below the horizon line, they start moving in the other direction. So we will have some exercises in studying perspective as well. For now, all you need to know is the angle at the extremes is going to be the most extreme angle. So if you are going to draw any line below that in the area between the topmost angle and the horizon line, you cannot make a line that is steeper in between. This would be wrong. This will not show any perspective. So for example, if you are going to make the top line like this, and where you have the wall, this wall, instead of this angle, if you'll end up making an angle like this, it is going to make your building look flawed. So just keep in mind that the angles are reducing towards the center and then increasing as it goes beyond the center. Okay, I'm going to walk you through this, so don't worry about it too much. I just need you to be wary of what lines you're making, where, and what is the purpose of those lines. Okay, let me share the images. So the first image I will share will be that very objective uniform grid. The second one will be the one with the internal geometry. Okay. Now, if we want to simulate a travel journal and we are using an A4 size book right now, you can fold the paper into half such that the end comes and touches the perforation. This is for an A4 size book. But if you're working on any other size, if you are folding it in half, just check if your paper allows you a space that's about this size. If there's anything, if it's going to become like a narrow fold, then forget it. Then just make one page of art. So this works well for an A4 size best. Maybe a longish page is also fine, but not a squarish page. That rectangle is totally not worth it. And I see we have written Japan here. So I think we had decided to do Japan. We can do that again sometime. Okay, now this is your double spread when you open a journal. Before you start illustrating anything, you need to start thinking about the composition. How are you going to compose this picture? So composition requires you to think about all the different elements that are going to come on your page. But when you're traveling, you're not going to know exactly how everything looks with that where you're going to travel so that you can make this, right? So you have to preempt and you have to leave certain spaces unpainted. And then as you travel, you go back and forth and you fill up the spaces. So in order to do that, you can have a few key points to start with. Architectural stuff can come on the right and use up a lot of space because they are large things. And then things like windows or artifacts can be slightly smaller. Where you draw a picture and where you write stuff is also something that you can decide. But usually in magazines or books, you would have the picture on the right and the text on the left. You can easily reverse it depending upon what you want to have more importance given. So, pictures on the right are usually ads in magazines. They want to have premium space. There's a reason for that. When we are going through a book which is written from left to right, this is the page that we see first. So you want your eye to fall on this, and then your eye travels back, and then you might want to read. So this is an option. This is just involuntary. You will see it. So you can decide what you want to give more importance. Then there is a manner in which the eye flows. So you look at something, you see something in the center first, and then your eye goes to the left. So we don't see stuff from the top to the bottom where pictures are involved. So we will make the Moroccan building image on the right hand side and give it lots of room. And for the text, we can keep a block available either on top or at the bottom and juxtapose our window somewhere over there. Now, when it comes to windows, typically I also enjoy making the window in such a manner that you can write the text within that. But our window today is rather narrow. I don't want to stretch that concept so much that we lose the beauty of the window itself. Okay, so let's look at how much space we are going to use up. If you draw without planning, it's very possible that you will draw a building that's this big, or it just goes beyond the scope of the page altogether. So start at medium because illustrations will spread. Don't make a building too small. The building must be at least the size of your palm if you want to do a fair job of it. So if we consider this the height of our building, we've already made a square. So if this is the height, how wide will the building be? If we are making the building this wide, maybe we can make it a little to the left so that we can use up maybe the space on the left of the page, on the left page also, bleed a little bit of the foliage to the left because we can't do anything on the right. So my building is going to be somewhere here in the center. This is the square, and then there is a little bit on top beyond the square and a little bit at the bottom beyond the square. So visualize the square first, and let's make just the square part. When you're measuring the square as well, use your pencil and make sure that it is either centered or at the very least slightly closer to the top than the bottom. But this also has a blue sky, so if it comes a little to the bottom, doesn't matter. Divide the square in half vertically and horizontally. Now the angle at which we are going to draw the top of the building, for that angle we are going to take a point slightly above the top left corner. That's the point. But what about the center? What angle do we make over here? So again, with your pencil or just with your eyes, you can measure the space and just calculate it like this. You can see whether, if this is the distance, I'm going to use this, I'm going to move this and show you. I don't know why it's not moving. Yeah. So this is the height of our tower. It's almost 1/2 of the top square, half square, 1/2. So we get some idea of measurement. Now this is my top half. I will project a line just above over here. So at least we get some idea what angle to make. When you're new to perspective, these are the angles that can literally make or break your illustration. Similarly, from the right, we just make a dot slightly higher and we will make a line not exactly from the center. Notice that the edge of our tower is a little to the left of center. That little bit also can make a big difference. And now we can start drawing some basic lines. So we have a tower here where you have a slight slant. No, actually you don't
Aditi,
slant. Yes.
can you repeat the thing about the slope on the left?
On the
The
left,
top.
yeah.
Yeah.
So on the left, when we look at the square, the slope from the bottom starts just a little above the corner of the square we have made.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that little, if you want to really measure it, that can also be measured objectively by continuously breaking this line into half, further half, further half, further half. So you get some measurement. Then the top, I had drawn a line from the top of the tower to the top of the square and figured that whatever that distance is about half the distance of the top half of the square. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
1/4 of the length of our square. That gave me a point to project the left side angle.
Mm-hmm.
And similarly, we drew the right side angle also, just visually measuring. Now, this is a funny illusion. Notice the front edge of the tower If we just look at the picture, it looks like it's a sloping line, right? But if I see it over here, it's not sloping at all. It is just an absolutely straight parallel line. I'll draw this line in black. Can you see this? It is a straight line. So we are so easily fooled by these illusions just because of the other angles. So now that we know this, we are going to make this line absolutely straight, coming right to the center, horizontal, and go a little beyond. And then from there, we will draw a line from a little below the center to a little above the center on the left. So we get one wall. This looks so slanted right now, you will feel you're doing something wrong. Then again, we will divide the bottom, this horizontal line, into three parts. So we draw one side of the center tower, straight line to the left of the first 1/3 and the edge of the tower in the back. Then we will draw the middle part like this. So if you have got this, I will just let you continue to build this. I'm not going to give you a line by line commentary, although I can do that. But I feel you can do a lot also by just observation. Keep an eye on the angles. Some you won't be able to measure out. And remember that on the sides, the towers are not going, the lines are not vertical, they are slanting a fair bit to create an illusion of almost like a pyramidical shape. Wherever you have plants, just draw a silhouette of the plants. Don't draw them like details. Remember, when you're drawing these lines, keep them fluid. So you will have overlaps, you will have lines that go a little beyond they're meant to go. All of that is good because it shows you things like whether you're managing the perspective well. And as far as trees and shrubbery is concerned, just keep a very vague shape around it. That's all we will be able to make anyway. So you have to constantly remind yourself that what you see and what you perceive are two different things. You might be able to see a very small part of a plant, but just from how our eyes and our brains work, you will be able to tell whether it's a banyan tree or a coconut tree. But you're not expected to make all those details in a painting, because even in a painting, if I were to make a straight line and just draw 3 4 twiggy lines coming out of it, as like how many children draw, you will still see it as a coconut tree. But when we, as adults, when we start painting, we feel that we need to put in a lot of detail, and then that detail somehow just doesn't work. Now you should know, when watercolor artists are painting, they often don't do anything more than this. They don't draw lines in pen. They will start painting with just so much, and sometimes even erasing some of these lines. Now we are not going to do that. We will put a little more detailing in. Once you have drawn the basics with all the guidelines, you can go back to the main image to start furnishing details now. This time you will draw lines with a little more purpose, but still keep them loose. So, what I want you to not do is draw lines like this. Where am I going to show you that? So when we are drawing the building, I want you to not do this. This is not going to do any service to your illustration. So even if you draw lines which are going through, I think my pen is protesting. So we are going to draw mostly horizontal lines and draw firm lines. You can draw wobbly lines. They can be inaccurate, but they can't be broken. See, it will not look bad even if you make some corrections here or there. But if you make lines like this is what will look very, very amateurish. And we do not want that. So don't be afraid of making the strong, confident lines. Now for this, Archana and Malika, if you want to use your dip pens, you can use those. I'll also get mine. I need to finish. And Deepika, do you have a dip pen? You
I
can,
have a fine liner.
yeah, you can just use that. There will be some difference in how the line looks when made with liquid ink, Deepika, so just keep that in mind. But my lines may be a little thicker than yours, and also the liquid might give some kind of dynamism to the line, but don't let that bother you.
Okay.
All right, so start from foreground to background ideally. And the best thing to do, especially if you are doing this on site, is to start with what you see obscuring the background. So I see this wall. It's a simple enough line to make, it's wobbly. And there are some rocks maybe over here. And part of it can be shown broken because it almost looks like the mud from here itself has been used to construct that wall. So don't make very straight walls here, any case, or straight lines, sorry. And then holding the pen a little further than when drawing precise lines, allow that line to create the silhouette of a brushy tree. This creates a border for us on the right hand side. Now we see something that looks almost like a palm, a small palm tree growing. In front of that, again, you have some brush. Now, here also you will notice that the silhouette of the brush shows some leaves pointing upward. So make your leaves also point upward. You'll see this in trees like olive, spruce, cypress. And wherever you see a little shadow, we will make the edge of that shadow. So beyond this will be slightly darker, and that'll look good enough when painting. The reason I am expanding into the left side page is because I want this to look like a journal and not like a postcard where I have sanitized the space and put only the building on one side, the window on the other side, but you are totally free to do that as well. This is your picture. Okay, I think my tree could have gone a little higher. Now for the coconut or the palm tree, we are not going to make one vertical line and then lots of these palm fronds. No, we are going to create the illusion of those palm fronds by just drawing the external lines. So not from the center, though we do see the lines from the center, they tend to look very tacky. Too much ink can make your picture look too busy and unnecessary details put in. Many of these details we can also furnish later. Now, what I like in making illustrations is that if I don't like a plant that they have planted, I just go ahead and change it. Because I don't want to I don't want a picture of something that I don't like in my journal. So I go ahead and command my own horticulture choices. Now, beyond this, we only have to make demarcations of the various spaces that we've already drawn, marked out. And you'll notice that there is very little bit that you need to draw out. And in this case, again, I think this building might be either old or it's made from very rustic, what's called, I think, adobo bricks, which are mud bricks, not like cement blocks. So their texture can be quite organic, rough like. On the left side of the building, there is a little protrusion. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as we see it and we create it. there is a thickness here. So remember how this roof ends a little to the right of the tower wall, and then there is like a small indent that goes down so that the tower actually expands out, protrudes out from this wall. We don't see that on the tower in the foreground, but we definitely see that on the background, changing the silhouette of the wall. Now I want to draw the back wall of the background tower. Should I draw it here? Should I draw it here? How tall should I make it? I usually use some cues from something that I've drawn before. I have drawn the protrusion in the wall over here. So with respect to this edge, I can see that that back edge is somewhere just over here. It's pretty tall. And then the roof hangs over it. Are you able to draw these?
Yes, Aditi.
Okay, cool. Now, when we come to the details, either you can draw them in pen or you can paint them. So, for this part, I'm going to say let's not draw anything beyond this point. Erase all the lines and give the first wash. And after the wash, we can either paint something or draw something that will make up all the details. Those of you who are working with the ink, and just be careful that you don't smudge. So, unless a line is going across, cutting through a space, and is going to I guess shatter an illusion or create some kind of messy look, don't erase too much. Some pencil lines can remain, especially if there are lines which are going to show some parts of the trees, maybe a little bit of shading on the foliage. those can actually remain because they will add to the depth. Now for the wash, this is very vital. I feel that many people misunderstand watercolor painting. We are not going to be painting very, very carefully. A wash is where you will stain the paper and prepare it to receive more color. All watercolor paintings are made from different washes. So I will put a wash as a base, then I will put a wash on part of the building to create a shadow, then a wash for the trees. That is how we have to proceed. So we need to create three colors: a cerulean blue, a green, and in this space I'm going to create a combination of yellow ochre and burnt sienna, maybe a little bit of light red to create that adobo brick sandy color. This mixture should be more liquid than dense, which means that you need to have adequate water so that the medium can fully flow onto the paper. First washes are often very light and also very liquid. Our paint is also going to run into each other. So part of the blue could run into the building, part of the green could run into the blue, and part of the building's color could also run into the sky and the trees. The first wash, you have to allow for all this to happen. How do you know if your medium is washworthy? Just move your palette around and see what ease the medium is playing or moving around on the palette with. The green that we use will be a light green, a combination of sap green and either raw umber, which is this color, or yellow ochre. Both these colors generally mute the green and make it a little less aggressive. As far as possible, we don't use just one single color for anything except maybe the sky, because this cerulean blue is really beautiful. And I'm a little partial to that cerulean blue also. Now, when you make a wet wash, invariably some color is going to run into another color, but you can control that to some extent. Since our focus is on the building, the first wash can be given on the building. So hold the book upright a little bit and stain the paper. Load the brush, hold it near horizontal. Don't press too much, but use the entire side of the brush to spread this color down through the building, maybe also through the plants, that's fine. As you come closer to the trees, you can wash and wipe your brush and insert the green. Part of the green can go into the building, part of the building color can go into the trees. You must allow this to happen. Watercolor is not about sanitizing different areas, it's not about segregation. So, this melding or merging of colors and blending is the specialty of watercolor, and it makes everything look much more rich. Now, after this is done, while the paint is still wet on the building, I can paint the sky around the building. And since the first color has been the building color, that will not change if I'm careful in applying the blue. But if that blue were to bleed into the building also, it is not going to look bad. Yeah, this is how I will make my sky. So even yesterday when
What what were the colors for the sky again?
just plain cerulean blue and some of my yellow ochre, and the building color has bled into the cerulean blue, so that's why it's looking a little yellow. But apart from that, it's just plain cerulean. Don't spend more than 3 minutes painting this. Don't go over and over it again. Now, while this is drying, let's try making the window. I know this is going to be a little tricky because of the wet paint, but this will probably help keep your lines a little lighter. Let's draw a vertically oriented rectangle. This is the rectangle outside of the carving. And I want you to try this. Just looking at the window detail, see if you can cut up the space to accommodate the carving on top. Make a line through the center. Create the same kind of curve. Look at how much space you need for the carving design. Then there's a border on the outside. And as far as the design is concerned, even that can be simplified. You have straight lines from the corners, which becomes the center, and then you have only one repeat, which you have to repeat 3 times after this. So whenever you have a symmetrical drawing like this, always draw the two sides together, opposite sides, but break it up. So I'm drawing one line like this, the same line on the opposite side. Then make this leaf pattern, another leaf pattern with a circle. Although I would say maybe it's not necessary to make this design, I thoroughly enjoy making these detailed illustrations with all the intricate designs of carvings and whatnot. I love it. But it is completely optional. Are you able to make the design? On these tiny pillars, there's an even tinier design, and I'm not going to make all of that. So I'm making like a three-petaled pattern with some holes. I'll show you how to make the design, a complicated design with just scribbles also. So while I have made my initial rectangle of some arbitrary measurement, as I'm increasing the detail, I realize that I need to extend my rectangle. This is also another point I have found, that a lot of times there is some hesitance in changing or expanding on what you have thought was your original grid. Pencil lines are just meant as guidelines. Don't get too attached to them. And then we have this frame. That's the frame of the window itself. And then beyond that becomes the frame for the tile. So this is an example of an expandable design. If you are comfortable with expanding this design, if you feel you have the skill, if you have the space, if it works in the composition, only then make the rest of the tiles. Otherwise, this is a good enough detail to stay with.
Aditi,
Yeah.
can you, if the picture isn't clear, uh, yeah, can you tell me how you did the details on the top?
On top,
That one. Yeah.
let me get a different sheet.
This looks much clearer.
Okay, we have a frame like that. And then we have an arch. So I'm making the detail. There is some thickness on the edge. That is, I suppose, for stability. So when I look at something like that, I'm constantly checking if I have enough space on the inside of the arch to make the design that I can see. So I keep adjusting this line. I think this is enough. So I have the same space here, thickness, and also length. Maybe I can increase the width. No, what do you know? It's the same. All right. The design is split in two in both corners. In the center, there is a line that runs diagonally, possibly to the center of this arch from both sides. Then you have a shape like this. You have a shape like that, and then from the bottom you have a shape like this, which is a circle. Not a circle, actually, a spiral. And the end of the spiral, there's like a leaf. This is the skeletal form. If we flesh this out, here's what you get. A compound curve from the top going and touching the side, but I'm going a little beyond the line now because I want to thicken this whole shape. And it doesn't come down this low because it is creating some depth. Then below that, I will complete the leaf. So again, I go around the shape, the skeletal shape that we had made, and then turn inward, and then leaving a nice fat leaf shape here, I will create a circle that goes very close to the main spiral line. And then I just draw a line that comes almost parallel to that edge and finishes off like this. There is a little turn on the bottom also. And then another compound curve that comes from that side and joins this shape. So this is the shape which is then repeated on the other side of the corner, and this entire thing is repeated on the opposite side. And in the middle you have what looks almost like a double teardrop shape. Okay, now to make the tiles. Here there is a geometric progression. So I will just extend the corners of the frame of tiles beyond the beyond the window itself, the carving. And I'm going to create another grid. That will be the lines from here. And I suspect the same line from there will emerge here. The best bit about geometric designs are that they have predictable lines. So you will start seeing a nice checkered grid. So all the squares, actually all the shapes are squares, and all of them are at a perfect 45-degree slant from the window. Once you make this grid, we will be breaking up the design. It's almost like a trellis. So what do we need? We need to divide our space into in such a manner that you make a line running halfway through the window, and then at 1/4 on the left and 1/4 on the right, you draw a line at 45 degrees. The same thing over here at the bottom, it reverses so that the squares are lined centrally and not half center. You know what I mean? I'll draw this and I'll show you. Now at this point, you just have to hope and pray that your proportions are not way off. So at this half point on the left and half point on the right, so I get the measurement for 1/4. And 45 degrees is, how do you draw 45 degrees? I'm sure there's a wonderful way of drawing 45 degrees. You draw a 90-degree angle and you cut the line in half. Make sure that this side and this side is the same, and then you cut the line in half again, the hypotenuse, and you should get a 45-degree line. And then you just draw a 90 degrees to that line. Now the trick is to be able to create these equidistant lines at 45 degrees. So keep an eye on the shapes. Are you getting squares or are you getting rectangles? If you're getting rectangles, make some adjustments. Maybe some lines are closer than they should be, some lines are further apart than they should be. And then you'll see a frame around here as well. We have one full tile at the top and bottom, and then your frame runs across. We have this tile, this, and I think, yeah. Now here again, it can seem like a tricky design, but these tiles are often embedded into each other. So designs are corollaries. You can take any one tile and make a particular design on it. The same line work will repeat everywhere. So let's say this is our square. In this square, you can make another square. This is just to figure out the design. Let's make another square on the diagonal inside this. So what I see is happening, we definitely have this internal square visible. Just the corners. And on the top, you have a shape like this. On the bottom, the shape is almost rounded. And on the sides, the shape is like this. Now, if we go around the shape like so, and make it thick, we will get our tile. Now we can do the same for all of these, or you can create that shape knowing this design, of course. So I would go through the trouble of making at least the internal square lines. And then make a design on the inside. The same design above. And see how they are fitting. I know this looks so tedious, but it is so rewarding. And also, this is like the experience you get where you say, thank God I did not choose a whole building made of these tiles, because I would have gone mad. And better to know that on a small scale before you take on something humongous and then feel bad about not finishing it, guilt yourself into finishing it. Totally not worth it. Okay, so we can complete this next week. You can finish making the tile design, and if you want to, you can go ahead and make the white and green tiles on the inside also. They're basically just a hexagon, so don't make the green tiles. You can make a circle in the center. The scale is too tiny, so it doesn't matter. That's not a hexagon or octagon or whatever. Or you can make it with spiky edges. 8 spiky edges is fine. 2 leaf shapes on the top and bottom, and you're done. So this is how you can do it. Make a circle in the center and then make V-shaped lines on all the 8 cardinal directions. So you get this 8-pointed star, and then you have a leaf shape at the top and diamond shape at the bottom. So the tile is complete. If you feel that's too much to do, just make a circle in the center and 2 circles at the top and bottom, and that will also be sufficient.
Aditi, can you show one tile just with colors?
With
Maybe
color,
on the, yeah,
we'll color
I
it
think.
next week. You don't color it, just draw it.
Okay, fine.
Just finish the drawing, and both
Mhm.
these we will finish next week.
Okay, sure.
Diti,
Yes,
can you take a picture of the detailed ones of the tile on the window and also sand?
yes,
Yeah,
I'll do that.
okay.
But Aditi, before you leave, can you tell that thing about the confident line again? What should we avoid and how should the line look like?
Sorry, what? About the what?
The thing that you said about the line being
Hi, there is
confident.
nothing.
So in the beginning, when you were starting, we were starting to draw this piece, the building. Sorry, you said the line needs to be confident and not like
Oh,
don't go.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, so our lines can be let me backtrack. Normally, when we are drawing, as beginners, you're unsure whether you're making the right line or not. And for some reason, you want to make the line, but you don't want to commit to the line. So you'll end up making a line that's very hesitant. And I'll show you what I mean. So, say I want to make a cylinder or jar or something. I am not very confident about making ovals. So, I will start making lines like that. Okay, so it looks like a very perfect line, or the oval looks very perfect, but it is made of many, many, many tiny lines. In some places, it works, so you feel very confident that this is the way to go about it. I have seen a lot of people work with these lines, and once the illustration is complete, you won't even feel that this looks bad. But what happens is this line is not doing you any favors and you're not improving your drawing per se. But suppose I were to draw something similar, but I am completely off because my hand is not very practiced. But I will not make a line that is fake accurate by compromising on its strength. So, strong line is one where if I say were to draw the same window again, I will not have a problem making any of these shapes and also going over and over to create texture if needed. I'm not looking at accuracy right now because, as far as accuracy is concerned, I think uh, that is a little overrated, and the only people who insist on it are beginners. Because somewhere in our head, we feel that unless my picture looks exactly like the photograph, it is not worth it. Then why do I even bother, right? But that is not what art is about. So you can make a design that is evocative of what you are seeing. I'm deliberately making the lines rather poorly. There is no accuracy. We've spent a lot of time on making this design, and I'm just going ahead and kind of murdering all the stuff that we have made. Not because I can't do it, but because I want to create something that has more dynamism. So, not everyone can uh, lands up appreciating something like that because we feel that this looks very untidy or very childish, whereas the other one looks more accurate. But in the other one, if your lines are going to be like this, then when you are making this picture, it tends to look a little amateurish. And the whole point is you want to get rid of that line, correct? In time, you will be able to make this line with the grace of a strongly held pen, so you don't have to worry about how that line will look. So I'm not saying that you will always stay at this level, but here, if you don't change the line, you will always stay at this level. Drawing lines which are strong and confident frees up your hand and also helps you to modulate pressure. So you're not drawing lines which are like steady at one pressure throughout, which is what you do in this case. You are not modulating the line. But when you start drawing long span lines, so if I were to draw lines like this, in some places my lines will be thicker because my pressure will be higher. These are very dynamic lines. So the dynamism in the line will help you make the lines very fluid, and you'll also be making them much faster, and you will be able to predict the outcome. Here, you will never be able to predict the outcome. You will keep hesitating, or the lines will look hesitant. You might know that, okay, I have to do it like that, but the quality of the line will not have improved. So, I would say it's better to make an inaccurate sketch with strong lines like these than an accurate sketch with lines which is just like riding with training wheels. So if you hope to do a Tour de France, you have to get rid of your training wheels, which means that at some point you are going to fall off. Things are going to look odd and ugly, but that's in an effort to not need training wheels at all. Does that help?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Thanks, Savitri.
Okay, you're welcome. Sorry. Any other questions?
No, we are good, I guess. I think I want the picture alone
Mhm.
because I struggled a lot in window. I will try over the weekend.
All right, but do tell me what you're struggling with because then I might be able to identify something and help you. If you can think of it now, great. If you can't, then just put it in a message. Say, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what is happening. I can't figure out. It could be that you're seeing something differently, you're not noticing something, and lots of things can be happening. Like I can give you an example. Where we're making that grid, you need to have 90 degrees on that grid. And if you don't, if it's even a little off, you might not get the tile pattern exactly the same everywhere. It'll look angular in one, like leaning left in one side, leaning right on another side. And you'll wonder, you've made everything go at 45 degrees, why it's not happening? It could just have been the distance between the tiles.
Okay.
Right?
When I try during weekend, I will just like text you.
Yeah. So just notice what is happening, and if it's not happening as to what we wanted to happen, just put it on the group. I'll find what the problem would be. You don't need to always be able to identify the problem.
Aditi, one last thing.
No
So if
problem.
you start drawing a line that's not right, like at the angle, so would you start back or would you like continue where you stopped at? So something like,
I think I get what you mean. If it's like the side of a side wall of a glass or something, start again. Start the whole line again and
okay,
collect the whole thing.
got it. Okay, sounds good. All
Okay.
right.
So
Thanks so much.
I will stop the recording.